Welcome to Unit 3. Looking forward to getting started with all of you here in EDSE 614. Moving forward this week, taking a bit of a closer look at our FBA BIP major project assignment and moving into some ideas about data collection. So to begin, I'm going to pull up the course schedule. This is a great resource for us here on Unit 3. We can see that our topic is Principles of Behavior Management. And this course schedule is provided to you to really help you to remain clear on what's coming up. You can see it goes all the way down to the very end of our course in May, which will come sooner than we know. So take a look here at week 3. We've got the deadlines clarified in this column. Our topic, Principles of Behavior Management. Last week we were looking at models. We're going to get a little bit further this week, particularly into focusing on data. You can see our assigned reading right here. And then this week, obviously, to review all the content is very important, but for submissions themselves, we have a Unit 3 activity discussion. That'll be part of your participation credit. And then our journal number 1 will be due. Remember, journal number 1 was assigned in the very beginning of our course. This will be our 3rd week to work on the journal. And take a look at that here. So you'll see here in purple, it's very important that we are all on track with the FBA BIP paper assignment. And I am here for anybody who wants to chat via phone and set an appointment. We can chat via Zoom or a video conference, or feel free to email me with questions. But these videos, along with the other documents in the units, are created to help us all to avoid confusion. So my hope is that this review will be helpful and we'll talk through a little bit. So you can see here that the assignment tab will show us the FBA BIP description. Just fold up right here, goes all the way down to here. We've got the consent forms. Please let me know if you have any concerns or questions about consent for this project. Our most important mission right now, if you've not done it already, is to get this consent taken care of. You can see the form here. So that is attached for you in Microsoft Word format. If you can get the consent, you can start working on your project. And the first steps for our project, which we'll start looking at this week, are the baseline data collection to really figure out what's going on. And even before that, the idea of identifying a target behavior, the behavior of primary concern. And this is something that we will work closely on, particularly next unit. Please know that there are some students who might display multiple behaviors of concern, or target behaviors as we might call them. And it's very important that we select one and that we stay focused on that one behavior. That'll keep us from confusion or from extraneous variables that might impact the data that we're trying to collect and the interventions that we're trying to implement. So you'll see here, once again, I'll go over the idea of the operational definition. We're going to be working on that in the upcoming weeks, really honing in on what is that target behavior, what does it look like or sound like, what occurs, in a way that anybody who heard your operational definition would be able to understand or picture or capture what you're saying. You'll then be going into measurement procedures, and that'll be that baseline data. You're describing what those will look like. So you will need to do formal observations. Okay, and we will take a look. We have several forms included in our unit this week that will be helpful for review. And I'll pull those up now. So you can see as we hit next, talking about target behaviors. There's a little PowerPoint included. Oops. So you can see, to start with a target behavior, which you'll want to be brainstorming on for this project, you'll need to select a target behavior. you're looking at something that causes the most concern. I would say for this project, although this is telling us that the safety risk behaviors are definitely priority, for the sake of this project and for the aim of this project, I would encourage just focusing on something that is not causing an imminent threat to safety, just because we don't want to bring about any liability with that. So consider loud vocalizations, exiting the classroom without permission, physical aggression that's not causing injury, such as, just a lighter slap or something of that nature. So don't go too far into something that would be related to a safety risk. And then anything that is having the biggest impact on the learning of the student and the learning of others. This slide does prompt to pick one or two, but for the project, we're really just going to hone in on one. The Deadman's test is a phrase to help us understand what behavior is, and this is moving into that operational definition concept. So the question would be, can a dead man do it? That's just kind of a term that you'll hear thrown around in work with behavior analysis. If a dead man can do it, it is not behavior. So you'll see several examples here. Can a dead man get out of his seat? No. So getting out of the seat without permission would be a good example as a target behavior. Talking without permission, good examples, good examples. So we're looking for something that a student is doing, not something that they're not doing. We also want to avoid something like the student is being disrespectful, and instead you would choose a target behavior that you can operationally define, such as the student uses profanity when interacting with staff or with peers, and you could select either staff or peers. Something really specific, because that's the only way that we'll be able to do some data collection with fidelity and really analyze what's going on. More examples here. This slideshow will be provided to you. And then the stranger test, very important. You want somebody who's never met the student, never even met you, to be able to take your operational definition as you're really clarifying what your target behavior is and understand it. And say, yes, I can imagine what's going on, and determine how frequently the behavior is occurring. So it's not something that is only understood by yourself or by close colleagues. Finally, there's something called the Sowhat Test to keep in mind. If the behavior is not harmful to a student or peers, social, physical, emotional, or academic well-being, learning, if it is not harmful, choose a different behavior. If it is harmful, choose that behavior. And again, by harmful, we don't mean dangerous where there's a safety risk. We don't want to get into that, but instead harmful as in distracting or causing a problem with the learning environment for the student or for peers. So you'll see here some more information about behaviors, about collecting baseline data. What I really want to focus on right now are these forms. You'll see that there are many forms included for you. We're going to go back here to the requirements, and you'll see the rubric here. We're looking at a diverse variety. That's what we'll need. We'll need more than 5 sources of data for a full and a thorough assessment. So you want to do an interview, either with the student or with some other stakeholder. The MAS, which we will look at today in this video. Observations, very important. You can complete an ABC form. There's a lot of different choices. So you will not be running out of options for data collection. And you'll see here we do have an antecedent behavior and consequence form. Okay, so there are a couple different options for forms here. Antecedent, we're looking at what occurs immediately before the behavior. So if the antecedent is the bell when it's time to transition for classes, and the behavior is lying down on the floor, the student's not willing to move, the consequence could be a positive thing for the student, or what they perceive to be positive, so the student is allowed to stay where they are. Or the consequence could be the student is sent to the office. So when we hear the word consequence, we often perceive it as a punishment. Don't look at it in that way, but instead view consequence as a neutral thing, which could be what the student wants or not what the student wants. Think about it as what happens when the student does the behavior. So antecedent, what occurs immediately beforehand. Behavior, what is the student doing? And then the outcome or the consequence, what happens when that happens, okay? And you also can include what is the reaction of the student to the consequence. So if the student's consequence is that they don't have to go to their next class and they just get to remain on the floor where they are, the student reaction might be, you know, to feel happy, to perhaps roll around, reach out for some toys, fall asleep, showing some satisfaction with the successful avoidance of the next class. Or if the consequence is to go to the office and speak with an administrator, the student reaction might be frustration, vocalization, crying, running in the opposite direction, elopement. You see many different things. Okay, so you can do some observations using this ABC form. It's very important to be able to use that. There is a document for parent interview, some options for questions, and you'll see in our Unit 3 that that document is right there, ABC right here. An example FBA BIP, this one might be helpful for you to review as we're getting started on all of this. It's really important. This is that example document, by the way. It's important that we take a look at this large document. This is a document called Data Collection Forms, which is included right here in the list. You can see. And this document has many different options. You can see that there's thorough directions here for you. You can interview students. You can interview staff. These are really good. There are examples. You can see this one has student example information, so you can see how it's filled out. Here's another worksheet. Some of these can be filled out by students. So you can take a look through and see which one might be appropriate for them to take a look at. Lots of different sheets for observation. If you need any help doing these, those are more ABCs. Summarize the environment when the behavior occurs. This is a really simple one, the behavior observation form. You can see the questions. Who is or is not present? How did the situation behavior end? This is pretty similar to the ABC model, but it's just a little more straightforward. And directions for this form, because it's a little complex. So you'll see that there are directions included. This is for an academic record review and any kind of IEP information that you're able to access, if that's something that your school is willing to provide, or if you have access to it through your role. This is a checklist that just prompts you along the way as you're working on an FBA and a BIP. So this is just kind of a big picture guidance document. And finally, the MAS, which you keep hearing about. The MAS is the Motivation Assessment Scale. And this is something, here's an example, that helps you to understand as you answer. It's just one of these little scales you can fill out to respond. You see it's the Likert right here. And then, just as you would with a quiz, perhaps in a magazine, you're putting your scores in, you're adding them up, finding out what the function of the behavior may be. So you have several options here. There's very clear directions here in the MAS. This one is required, so be sure that you get that one done. We've got our discussion. That's about it for the week. Please let me know if you have any questions.